A common mistake among aspiring writers is to use a description as some sort of decorative background to the story. Rather, I think that description, by which I mean concrete detail, is one of the main ways that you should tell the story. Here's an example from Zadie Smith's On Beauty, and it's taken from near the start of the novel, when she describes Howard and Kiki's kitchen. She writes, "And now the two of them began to choreograph a breakfast in speechless harmony, passing the box of cereal from one to the other, exchanging implements, filling their bowls and sharing milk from a pink china jug with a sun-yellow rim. The house was south-facing. Light struck the double-glass doors that led to the garden, filtering through the arch that split the kitchen. It rested upon the still life of Kiki at the breakfast table, motionless, reading. A dark red Portuguese earthenware bowl faced her, piled high with apples. At this hour, the light extended itself even further, beyond the breakfast table, through the hall, to the lesser of their two living rooms. Here a bookshelf filled with their oldest paperbacks kept company with a suede beanbag and an ottoman upon which Murdoch, their dachshund, lay collapsed in a sunbeam." Oh, it conveys a very clear mood, right? It conveys a happy, secure, settled atmosphere. But, of course, stories being stories, this can't last. Spoiler alert coming up here. You won't be surprised to hear that everything doesn't stay completely happy. In fact, it turns out that Howard is off philandering all over town. He's having an affair with a woman at his work, and even worse, he has sex with his academic rival's daughter at her mother's funeral. And then this all gets exposed, and the whole family falls apart, and Kiki and Howard are estranged, and the kids are distraught, and Howard's away living in a motel, and everything's just awful. And later in the novel, Zadie Smith once again has cause to describe the kitchen. But it's a very different description. Kiki closed the sliding doors and went over to the cork notice board where bills and birthday cards, photos and newspaper clippings were pinned. She began lifting the layers of paper, looking under receipts and behind the calendar. Nothing ever got taken down from here. There was still a picture of the first Bush with a dartboard superimposed over his face. Still in the top left-hand corner, a huge button bought in New York's Union Square in the mid-80s. I myself have never been able to figure out precisely what feminism is. I only know that people call me a feminist whenever I express sentiments that differentiate me from a doormat. Long ago, someone had spilled something on it, and the quote had yellowed and curled like parchment, shrinking between its plastic and metal covers. Now the fan machine started up, conveniently loud and insensitive to nuance, mechanical background noise to fill up all the gaps in the room in the conversation. Kiki sat down at the kitchen table. She worked a wood-wormed groove at its edge with her finger. She could hear Zora's eggs sizzle and spit under the pressure of the cook's impatience, the stench of burning pans, already part of the process from the moment the gas was lit. It's a totally different mood, right? Completely different atmosphere, and we've got a very clear idea once again of how the characters are feeling. But although the moods change so much, Zadie Smith's not telling us how the characters are feeling. All she's doing is giving us a different set of sensory details. And I know that it's the same kitchen. The kitchen hasn't changed, right? It's just that there are different things it makes sense to focus on now than it did at the start. It's not a coincidence that now that Howard is away philandering all over town, we hear about this feminist badge that has had something spilled on it. What does it look like? The quote had yellowed and curled like parchment, shrinking between its plastic and metal covers. What does the scene sound like? Now the fan machine started up, conveniently loud and insensitive to nuance, mechanical background noise to fill up all the gaps in the room, in the conversation. What does it feel like? She worked a wood-wormed groove at the edge with her finger. The table was wood-wormed in the earlier scene, but Smith preferred to focus on the pink china jug with a sun-yellow rim. What does it smell like? The stench of burning pans, already part of the process from the moment the gas was lit. All she's doing is choosing the appropriate concrete detail that conveys how the characters are feeling. If you want to practice this, try thinking about a place you know well, perhaps your present or former home, and then try to describe the sensory details you might notice depending on your mood. What would you focus on if you were afraid? What would you notice if you were happy? What might catch your attention if you were sad? Thanks for watching, and good luck with your writing.